Well, hello, creatives, community, and kind folks, and good morning there, J Dub and Druden. Good morning to everyone, or good afternoon, or good evening, whether you're catching this live broadcast or pre-recorded broadcast. Today is Tuesday, and on RPG with DBJ, we're going to take Tuesday to make it exclusively about Level Up 5th Edition or Level Up Advanced 5th Edition. A full disclosure, I was a contributing writer and consultant on one of the three core books for Level Up 5th Edition. That particular book being Trials and Treasures. I will show you the physical books, but we're going to get into the PDFs. And with today, hey there, Infinite. Hey, what's going on? Long time no see, but what's going on? Thank you for being here. Um, an excellent artist, that one. There has, because of the controversy with Wizards of the Coast, you can look at a lot of people who are have a lot more detail and are far more illustrative in terms of describing all of the ups and downs. But let it be said that Wizards of the Coast really shat the bed, and so people are looking for alternatives and for their role playing experience. And some of those alternatives are what I have a lot of fifth edition Dungeons and Dragons, and I love the game, but are there any other fifth edition aside systems where I can just take my old stuff and support third party publishers? So one of those big things that came to mind came to light in terms of the aftermath of ruining our good graces with Dungeons and Dragons itself was Black Flag from Cobalt Press, and Black Flag is they're going to be their version of the Creative Commons of the rules for Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. And but there's already been a publisher that's already done this, written it, rewritten from the ground up, every word, all the math, all the encounter balancing, all the character classes, all the spells, and written it from the grounds up. Hey, what's going on there, Danny? Those who participate in the show live are our co-hosts, and I they help me make the show better because I'm a bit of an idiot sometimes. Oh man. Mm-mm-mm. All right, so level up advanced fifth edition. I'll show to you my leatherette styled versions of the books. There are three books, meaning that yeah, Michael's like, you mean Paizo? Yes, there's already been plenty of other. I guess some could say Pathfinder First Edition was more like 3.75, and then Pathfinder Second Edition really diverged away from what uh, in their own world they diverged away from their own first edition, and it really doesn't have much to do with fifth edition, but it still is a D20 system. It has a very tight math for Pathfinder second edition. I've never played it, but I've looked through it and seen it. And but N World is a has been around for 25 years, I mean, and gathered together about 30 designers. We were all split off into designing bits and pieces. We had designers working on like one class each, and there were survey results. Those survey results went into the design groups. The design groups then reconfigured and such. So I was on the design group for exploration. And so I didn't have anything to do with the rest of it. No one person, well, I'm sorry, editors had something to do with the entire series, but no one designer was just like, oh, I'm designing the whole thing. So we're going to take a look at why Level Up Advanced Fifth Edition might be your choice. So here in front of me, again, this is the special editions because I had access to them because I was a contributing writer. This is the Adventurer's Guide. Essentially, it is the player's handbook. Although it has all the spells, it has everything you need for character creation and such. It's a pretty thick book. There's about 1,600 pages in total for each of the books, and then we'll get into the PDFs. And I will try to show you and give you a number of the reasons why you should play Level Up 5th edition. By the way, there's no one thing. I think some people have come across, and even today now, are I think misinterpreting when these companies, Cobalt Press and MCDM is going to do their own thing and such, when they talk about um, creating their own 5th edition clone. And I think people are expecting, they are expecting something so new that it will blow your mind, and that's not going to happen. First of all, if you the one D&D surveys for Dungeons and Dragons are still coming out, and what happens is if you design a game through survey results and through public play testing, everything is going to get designed towards the mean, not towards the extremes. And so therefore, if you want to support like Black Flag or Level Up 5th edition, this is the monster book, Monstrous Menagerie. Um, and then we have our what some would call the Dungeon Master's Guide. It is the Trials and Treasures. It has treasures in it, of course, your magic items and things like that. It also talks about different types of play styles, modifying the game up and down based on like grittiness or realism or more heroic things, optional rules, and a fully developed third pillar, which I'm so happy. So at least it exists. But it's really strange because a lot of people don't notice this. Zavaris is apparently Level Up is being sold at my local gaming store. I did not know that. Did not know that. Okay, so there is no one thing that makes Level Up 5th edition different. You're not going to open a page 5 and go, oh, that's what makes this better. So what I thought we would do is very quickly, and this is going to be rough and wild. Very quickly, page through to regions where I think you should consider using Level Up 5th edition. And then I will talk in general about the game as well. And we're going to take a look at all three books. And then, like I said, every Tuesday we'll dive into something that's in the game system because there's 1,600 pages. It's really difficult to like page 2, page 3. It'll take forever. But if I can have a playlist, and then someone could just easily navigate through the playlist to go to different character types, options, combat, all that kind of stuff, we'll do it that way. So let me display to you. Mhm, mhm. There we go. This is the actual artistic cover for Level Up Advanced 5th Edition. It has an unfortunate name, so whenever you type in Level Up, you're going to get like you besides role playing and how to level up your character, you're also going to get things like um, muscle supplements and hustle culture stuff. It's kind of weird. So it's a little difficult to to search for it online. So I would suggest when you search for it online to type in like en world as one word, as well as advanced 5th edition, so on and so forth. So of course we have the table of contents. Talks about what is Level Up. It's a role playing game, imaginative play, three-pronged approach for combat, exploration, and social encounters. We know all these. We've seen this, we know this. But if this is your first time or purchasing your first rule set, you have to have this in there. Okay, so here's our first big change from 5th edition. All right, and expertise is available to every player character. We understand what advantage and disadvantage is in 5th edition. Advantage, you roll 2d20 and take the highest. Disadvantage, roll 2d20, you take the low roll. Expertise die begins with a d4. Expertise can come from is a replacement for iterative bonuses. So instead of plus ones, plus twos, and plus threes, and trying to add and hunt for those bonuses and penalties, what you're doing is you're trying to you may want to hunt for expertise. So expertise can come in because of temporary or permanent skill that you have. And expertise uses a step die system. So if your character has expertise with something, it will be specific and it'll start at D4. So there's no number associated with it. You just have expertise. If you have one form of expertise, it's a D4. If you have two places you're getting expertise on the same thing, it's a D6. If you have three, it's a D8, and so on and so forth. The die just keeps going up, and you roll that with everything. It does not supplant any other die rolls. So if you have advantage, you still have advantage, even if you have expertise, which is separate. And if you have bless spell or bardic inspiration on that same player character, you still get expertise. And each of those die rolls is independent. So you don't roll 2d4 because you have advantage. For example, some class features or traits grant you an expertise die for an attack roll or saving throw, or in a specific skill or tool proficiency. When you make a d20 roll with which you have gained an expertise die, roll a d1d4 and add the number rolled to the result of your check. You can never roll more than one expertise die on the same roll. So instead of rolling two expertise dice, instead what happens is you will roll a d6 and d8 and d10 and things. So that's one of the biggest changes. And um, there isn't, forget fifth edition, having expertise doesn't double your proficiency. Expertise means you get a die to roll in addition to the d20 and whatever modifiers you have from your statistics, your attributes. So during character creation, you of course have to come up with some kind of origin, and then instead of race or even species, we have ourselves heritage, which is your biology, that's your bloodline, and then you have your culture. That's where you were brought up, or at least you can make culture the dominant culture with which you identify yourself with. So, for example, maybe you were a teenager and you lived in a farm, but maybe you moved to a big city, and the big city is your dominant culture. We also have ourselves backgrounds. We know what backgrounds are in fifth edition, but we've added something called destiny, and destiny has really taken the place of alignment. And destiny is far more destiny is proactive. It's instead of alignment being reactive or passive, destiny is extremely active. It's something you want to do. You are pursuing your destiny. And yes, there are ways to change your destiny. And of course, we pick a class, and you can start. There are rules to start characters at a higher level. So let me get back into the chat. I can't see the chat at the moment, so hold on, guys. All right, here we go. Um, Yeah, Zamara says it's to be honest, I was making my own system before the WotC issue. Listen, we were all making our own systems. Let's not kid ourselves like I didn't think about this until the WotC thing. We all were making our own systems. Even if you didn't even write it down in your head, you're like, I bet the rule would be better if this was that way. Or you know what? Because we're all homebrewers. Even player characters, people that just play. Unless you are just simply a beer and pretzels kind of person, we were all game designers. It just took somebody to push us off the, took us penguins to jump off the cliff into the water to get us to free ourselves. John Rice says once they're done with it, I'd like a comparison between Paizo's Orc and Kobold Press Black Flag, but Mike says Orc is a license, Black Flag is a system. That is correct. And they're technically not calling it Black Flag, they're calling it core. It's like core role playing system. It is a placeholder name. And I'm on the design team for the successful Kickstarter for Cool Name Goes Here system, which we're designing from the ground up. And because Kobold Press is also doing their fifth edition aside system, we are not designing it that way. We're gonna do it. It's being designed with committee and surveys and what people want, and we're going to design it that way. Elad says, "So glad I came across A5E. It's the 5E I've always wanted." A lot of people are saying, a lot of people are saying that, and we're going to do a very fast page through. Thank you there. Thank you for stopping by the way. And yes, if level up or any other system, right? is your thing, but you still have your fifth edition stuff, you still want to play, it's great. Um, right here, just paging through, talking about the character choices and options. And let's see if I can bring this up. Heritage. Let's get rid of this two-page, single page, and boom, 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 boom. Sorry about the ASMR clicking. There we go. So this is part of the character origins. You don't need to see the top; you just know them. So on the left here, who were your parents, and these are the options for your parentage. And it looks like it's not very many options here. You've got dwarf, elf, gnome, human, orc, plain touched. Plain touched is the placeholder for Asimar and Tiefling, and this allows you to not be either one, right? You maybe your character has the blood of maybe both even, or and I tried to push for this. It's not in the book, but I tried to push for like more of an elemental genasi kind of thing. But there are rules for having a mixed heritage. So it looks like there aren't many options, but you could be half dwarf, half elf if you prefer, or half orc, half dragonborn in your world. Maybe you have limitations. And on this channel, we've talked about like people, giving birth to neutered individuals, or maybe there just isn't any sexual compatibility and things like that. But here's the big thing: where did you grow up? All of this, I don't know if it'll let me do it. All of this, these are cultures, and you'll notice that some of the cultures have the the classic racial descriptors: deep dwarf, deep gnome, a stoic orc, a stout halfling. Where's another one? Dwarf, halfling, elf, high elf. That's so that it's if you want to make a fifth edition compatible character, you can. And also, a person can both be, let's say, be a villager, or you lived with hill dwarfs, right? So, or you could be a settler or a nomad, or be like a mountain dwarf, right? So you could live, maybe a human lived in a dwarven culture, or maybe a human lived just in a mountain culture, right? Either one. And then, of course, on this right side, there's two. There's these are all of the backgrounds, and these are all of the destinies. The one thing that separates this, some people claimed or are scared of power creep. Is this power creep? Are you just adding more things that characters can do, and more things, and more power, more? No, no, no. What's happened is, Level Up Fifth Edition was designed to be wide, not tall, because power creep was one of the things that everybody feared when during the survey test that N-World put out. And so instead of making things tall, meaning like you're just getting more power, there's just more options when you have an option to have. So for character classes, most of them, like the new Herald, which is the reformed paladin, instead of just having smite, you have a choice when you take your Herald smite ability at different things. Now, let's pick a race. Here we go. Let's pick dwarven traits. So under dwarf, we have a little bit of fluff for the dwarf, some generalities. Then we have dwarf traits: their age, their size, speed. They have dark vision. They have creator's blessing, where you gain proficiency with one set of artisan tools. And then you have tough. And then below that, you have a choice, a single choice. And you can pick dwarven stability or dwarven toughness. And then, so that your bloodline, your heritage doesn't become unimportant as you gain levels, at 10th level, you gain a dwarven paragon. You gain a paragon of your uh, genetics, let's say. And then you can either pick Fury of the Earth or Unbreakable. And then it talks about dwarven cultures and some of the suggested cultures that would be closely tied to them, like being a deep dwarf, forsaken, godbound, hill dwarf, or mountain dwarf are examples. But you don't have to deal with it. You don't have to pick those specifically. Here we have all of the various races, and then rules on how to make different races. Humans are not. Humans aren't necessarily the catch-all for being like, oh, we just get a bunch of feats. Instead, human traits, you have your age, size, speed. Also, automatically, you get fast learner and intrepid. Fast learner, um, humans can acquire knowledge at a higher rate. You gain proficiency in one additional skill of your choice. In addition, you require half as much time as normal to train yourself in the use of a suit of armor, tool, or weapon during downtime. And then you have intrepid. Your survival instinct is remarkably strong. When you make an ability check, attack roll, or saving throw, you can choose to gain an expertise die on that roll. So here's one amongst the other heritages. This one, as a human, you here's where the expertise die comes in. It is not stated what the expertise die is because you may have expertise from another source, and so again, it's step dice: D4, D6, D8, D10, etc. Once you use this trait, you cannot use it again until you finish a short or long rest. And then there is a human gift, and you only pick one of them. And this is again, it's not power creep, but options. Die-hard survivor, ingenious focus, spirited traveler, and then there's a paragon for everything. Orcs, plain touched, and under plain touched, talk about some of their, uh, where, how were you plain touched? There's the Asimar, Tiefling, plain touched culture. Mm-mm-mm-mm. And then is that top of cultures? There we go, cultures. And let me get back into the chat. Uh, so Eli says, are you aware of perhaps a plan to release a art PDF to print for A5E? I'm not certain about that. I'm not certain. I don't believe so. All I know is that they are working on um, an OGL SRD. If you go to, okay, here we go. If you go to, there, let's copy and paste this. So copy. If you go here, this will update you with what they intend to do. And if you want digital tools, it's also in, I mean, this is also in the down below in the video. But if you want digital tools, you can go here for the digital tools. This is like the this is the beta version of what we would consider D&D Beyond, to take a look at fifth edition, level up advanced fifth edition. Ooh, there we go. All right. If as we go through some of these cultures, put in the chat if you want me to focus on any of them. But we have the Caravaner, Circus Folk, Collegiate, Cosmopolitan, Deep Dwarf, Deep Gnome, Dragon Bound, the Dragon Cult, the Eladrin. Now remember, these are cultures, so it doesn't matter what your bloodline is, what your heritage is. You can pick any of these cultures. Forest Gnome, the Forgotten Folks. Uh, it's just a cutesy thing. FOLX. There's no rhyme or reason for that. It's just to be kind of cutesy and fun. So the Forgotten Folks, the Forsaken, the Godbound, Hill Dwarf, High Elf Hill Dwarf, the Imperial. You come from an Imperial culture, draconic nations and such. We have the Itinerant and the Kithbane Halfling. I hope I'm pronouncing that one correctly because it's got a little accent on it. The Lone Wanderer, Mountain Dwarf, Mustbairn, Halflings, Nomad Settlers, Shadow Elf culture, Steam Forged, Stoic Orcs, and Tinker Gnomes, Stoneworthy, Stout Halfling culture, Tunnel Halflings, and Tyrannized. I believe. Are we almost done? Oh no, Villager, Warhordling, and Wildling. I think that's all of the cultures. Then we get into the backgrounds. Okay. All right. So, um, al- along with all the cultures, if you want to describe what a heritage and culture combine together, think of the classic race and subrace. Essentially, is has happened. Of course, we have all the backgrounds, artisan and cultists and blah blah blah, entertainer and such. And these are narrowed down quite a bit because, like, let's take a look at folk hero. The ideals, flaws, and bonds and all that has been replaced with features, adventures, advancement, and some such. You get your tool proficiency, skill, ability score, and increases are part of your background and your culture, and as opposed to a racial feature. Uh, like for example, as a folk hero, you get +1 to Constitution and one other ability score. Gamblers get +1 to Charisma and one other ability score. Guard, guild members, Marauder, Hermit, Noble, Outlander, still exist. Let's go to Outlander. Uh, throughout the book, throughout Level Up Fifth Edition, I will say if you play it rules as written, Level Up Fifth Edition is far more brutal. It's it's if you're looking for something more gritty and a little bit more grounded from Fifth Edition, while it's not necessarily super realistic, it it's a pretty lethal system, and I'll explain to you for one of these. So for the Outlander, one of the issues with Outlander is the auto. It had an auto trait that in Level Up Fifth Edition we've gotten rid of, and I say we because I was just part of the group. Like for example, you have uh your feature is traitor, so the Outlander no longer like has the auto success feature. Instead, it says traitor. If you're in or near the wilderness and have a trading relationship with a tribe, settlement, or other nearby group, you can maintain a moderate lifestyle for yourself and your companions by trading the products of your hunting and gathering. So it doesn't it's we've gotten rid of auto features. Never surprised, never get lost, automatically find food. That stuff is gone out of Level Up Fifth Edition. The people who responded to the survey said they didn't want it, so it's gone. For example, in addition to Outlander, it says adventures and advancement. During your travels, wilderness dwellers may come to you for help battling monsters and other dangers. If you succeed in several of such adventures, you may earn the freely given aid of up to 8 warriors. And so for each background, there's kind of like an excuse, like they've built in a story trait so that it's not just you asking other people for help. It's like maybe those people might come to you for a thing, and you may gain something for your interactions with those individuals. So I think that's kind of cool. So the part that makes Level Up Fifth Edition lethal is the use of havens, supply, fatigue, and strife. So fatigue is a replacement for for exhaustion. Wow, my brain just went. So you can get fatigue from a lot of different sources now. A lot of different sources. For example, if you drop to 0 hit points and you raise back up, you get fatigue. There are spells that cause fatigue or spell burn that cause fatigue. There are um uh unlike the dash action, we also have a sprint action. And if you engage in a sprint action for very long, you can gain fatigue. There are plenty of ways to gain fatigue in the system. Fatigue is the and as you know about um, exhaustion, once you get 6 levels of fatigue, it's pretty much that you're probably going to end up dying. So no matter what level you are, there's still a way for you to be hurt. Strife is fatigue, but mental. So fatigue is physical, strife is mental. It has you can start gaining these compound conditions if you suffer too much strife, and so you're going to need to figure out ways to wipe that strife out. And the way to wipe out the strife and fatigue is resting, and that means you need to use supply and have a haven. So there are character classes where you can create havens, find havens. There are regions in the world where there are safe havens for you to gain your rest, and then you have to consume supply or use supply. Supplies, food, water, repair pieces, um, using supply to create a haven in the first place, and that kind of thing. So Level Up has really doubled down on that. So if you're someone who really doesn't want to deal with like tracking your supply and finding a haven and um, being besieged with fatigue and strife, Level Up may not be for you. So let's get back into the chat. Mm-mm. Show me on the doll where the plane touched you. I love that. I love that. It's like, you start rocking back and forth, crying like, no, the plane of Arcanus touched me with its gears. Or the mechanics, I think is it. All right, Destiny. So here we go with some Destinies. Destiny. Sorry. Destiny has kind of replaced alignment, and it gives you a feature and a reason, not only a reason to gain inspiration, but a way to spend that inspiration beyond just getting advantage or disadvantage. And some of these Destinies will attach to you an alignment trait, but it's not doesn't give you an alignment. It so let me read this for example. Alignment traits. So some destinies or class features grant an alignment trait: chaotic, evil, good, or lawful. An alignment represents a common moral disposition, and some items or spells may affect creatures with an alignment differently. You can never have two opposed alignment traits, such as chaotic and lawful or good and evil. So it doesn't mean your character has behaviorally changed. It means that when something affects those, like maybe there's a way to detect it, or there are magic items that are modified by having an alignment trait, you have that alignment trait. So, for example, you could play a herald, our level up fifth edition's A5E's version of a paladin with an evil alignment, but you are lawful. You feel that you are lawful good because maybe you've been tainted by something, or you feel guilty about performing some kind of heinous act, and now you have it. So the destinies, we have chaos, devotion, dominion. Here we go. Knowledge is one. Metamorphosis is one. Revenge, underdog, and wealth. And each of these has particular trait. Let's go with one. Yes, we'll go with Metamorphosis. That's one. That's a really cool, strange one. But uh, let, let's read. Yeah, we'll go with Metamorphosis. All right. So, under Metamorphosis, the trappings of daily life stifle you, and the shackles of this mortal coil cannot contain you. People whose destiny is Metamorphosis seek to attain a higher mode of being. Some search for enlightenment, but others turn their ambitions even higher, daring to pursue eternal life in the form of a vampire, a lich, a demon, or even a god. What will you sacrifice to walk this path? So, your source of inspiration is called unburdening. When you gain this feature, inform your narrator instead of dungeon master of the new form you desire, such as enlightenment and vampirism or godhood. You gain inspiration whenever you make sacrifices to attain new lore, contacts, or items to aid your transformation, such as sever earthly attachments, such as wealth or comfort, behave appropriately, akin to your pursued form, or spend inordinate time in your transformation's pursuit. Your inspiration feature is unearthly diplomacy. Your unearthly aspirations grant you insights into the minds of even utterly alien beings. As an action, you may spend your inspiration to form a connection with a non humanoid creature you can see that has a CR equal to or less than your level. You communicate freely even if you do not share a language. The creature would be normally unable to speak. You have no control over a creature you connect with in this way, but you gain an expertise die on checks made to influence it. Here we go with the expertise die again. The knowledge and awareness of a creature is limited by its intellect or perceptions, but most give you information about nearby locations. monsters in the area, and knowledge of whatever is perceived within the past day. This connection lasts for up to 1 hour or until you use an action to end it. So that's kind of an example of like metamorphosis. And then fulfilling your destiny. You fulfill your destiny of metamorphosis when you fully change into your desired form. Unlike other destinies, you may choose not to gain your fulfillment feature until after 16th level. So all of these destinies, you fulfill your destiny at 16th level if you haven't gained it before that. Um, and then the fulfillment feature is forever changed. You have finally reached the apex and have become something greater than your previous self could imagine. When you gain this feature, consult with your narrator about the exact nature of your metamorphosis and if your adventurer would still choose to remain adventuring after transformation. If your character wouldn't remain an adventurer, you may choose and become an appropriate creature with a CR equal to or lower than your class level -2, as per the spell True Polymorph, except that this transformation is permanent and cannot be dispelled. If your character would not remain an adventurer, you may use a portion of your new power however you see fit as the wish spell before ascending, which is kind of cool. And then there's some motivations like apotheosis, enlightenment, immortality, godhood, um, admiration, and transformation. So those kind of things. Like, we'll get back into chat. Of course, we have our other classes. Adept, Bard, Berserker, Cleric, Druid, Fighter, Herald, Martial, Ranger, Rogue, Sorcerer, Warlock, and Wizard. And I'll tell you about some changes comes up because we're getting far into it. All right. So under the classes, lots of things have changed under each class type. It's a little bit difficult to explain it. Instead of monk, there's adept because monk is a cultural thing. So you can make a strength adept, and you have access to martial maneuvers. I don't know if you can see this, but over here in the class features table, you can't really see it from here. You do have something called combat maneuvers, and as you gain levels, you do gain additional features from your combat maneuvers. So adepts have that. Flex spells. This is pretty hefty because not just under adepts, but from all the character classes. If the character class has any spell-like features, the spells are listed with that class type, so you don't have to keep flipping back and forth. So here we have the bard, talk about musical instruments and using bardic inspiration and cantrips and such. Being a maestro, um, subclasses and such. And then here's the bardic spell list. So the bardic spells are listed with others. I don't know all the new spells. I have the game, and I don't know all the new spells. But yeah. Mm-mm-mm. So anyway, let's go to something that's really changed. Let's go to hmm. Let's go to the Herald. Berserker, of course, is the barbarian. There's an armor wearing barbarian. Mm-mm. Type. Of course, you have spellcasting for clerics, channel divinity. But let's go to come on. We do have a new character class called the Marshal, and then we have all the spell types. The Druid, yes, the Druid wild shape is has been changed. Everyone keeps talking about these things being nerfed. So yes, the Warlocks. Uh, oh my God, Smite, Wild Shape, Eldritch Blast have all been, I dare hate to say this, called nerfed. The reason for that is because it makes no sense to have a feature. If a choice was better to pick than another choice, level up fifth edition, they changed it. And actually, in the surveys, people hated it because people running games were just like, yeah, every time this character has this feature, it's extremely difficult to balance out what they can or can't do. So, uh, wild shape, wild shape has been changed a bit. I could read through it, but we're going to do that when we go through character classes. I'm pausing too much. Let's go to all the spells. Fighter. This is one that's been hugely changed. So fighters have combat maneuvers, and if you take a look through this, fighters have lost action action surge. Instead, it's been thrown into the combat maneuvers, split up, and kind of modified inside of combat maneuvers. And of course, fighters have access to all the combat maneuvers. Um, Fighters have something called soldiering knacks. Soldiering knacks are like little things that you can pick. Um, uh, some of the character classes have these knacks, and they are like they're neither spells, but they're just features that you can pick that allow you to engage with the world socially and through exploration, because so much has been given for exploration. Mm, 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 mm. Soldiering next. There's things like amphibious combatant, bursts of strength, campaigner, mountaineer, night watch, stable footing, extreme leap, things like that. And these are little knacks. Like, for example, Clear Sight Sentinel, you gain dark vision. You can see in dim light within 60 feet of you as if it were bright light, and in darkness as if it were dim light. In addition, you do not suffer disadvantage on wisdom perception checks in lightly obscured areas, such as in light fog, moderate foliage, or heavy precipitation. So that is a soldiering knack that you can pick. Soldiering archetypes. We'll get into martial maneuvers. Here's the Herald. The Herald replaces the Paladin. Let's get into the smite. The first divine smite, starting at second level. Whenever you hit a creature with a weapon attack, you can choose to deliver a divine smite that deals an additional 1d4 radiant damage. The amount of damage increases as you gain levels in this class, as shown in the smite damage column. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus and regain spent uses upon finishing a long rest. It is no longer You are no longer expending spell slots. Uh, Everyone felt that it was it was a waste of time to do a thing that to accomplish a goal, and instead uh, create something else. So here we have empowering. We're off to the very left. Empowering smite. So you can pick one of these when you gain the fourth level. So igniting smite, marking smite, smite, and repelling smite. They sound like what they do. Igniting smite. Your smite instead deals fire damage, or marking smite. Your smite causes the target to shed bright light, or repelling smite. Your smite instead deals force damage, and the target must make a strength saving throw or be pushed back 10 feet and knocked prone. And as you gain levels, for example, eighth level, you can pick a smite. For example, greater empowered smite, etc., etc., etc. Mm, 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 mm. Okay, so let's go to the warlock. That's a big thing. The marshal. Creating a marshal. The marshal. The marshal is like warlord, a battlefield person, a non-magical leadership role. And the leadership role doesn't necessarily need to be like a knight. You could be an individual leading a rebellion, right? Like a light armored rebellion person, maybe like Robin Hood or something. So yeah, and the marshal is basically a warrior type, kind of mixed with a bard and a leader. They have martial archetypes and a bunch of things you can pick. Mm, 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 mm. Of course, we have the ranger. There is a non-magic ranger choice you can pick. So the standard ranger doesn't have any magic, and then you can pick a subclass that allows you to play a ranger without magic. Ooh, denizens of the shadows. Here. Mm, mm, mm. Of course, we have rogue. And Warlock. Warlock no longer has Eldritch Blast as a spell. The Eldritch Blast has been removed. Instead, The Eldritch Blast has an option. So at first level, you learn to use your patron's power as a weapon, blasting enemies with an eldritch force that defies even the laws of magic. Choose one of the following features. The Warlock now has the Eldritch Blast option as a feature. So you may pick Eldritch Disturbance, Eldritch Ray, um, Eldritch Scythe, or Eldritch Whip as an option for your Warlock. And then there are modifiers to that. So Eldritch Disturbance, you can use your action to strike a creature you can see within 60 feet with a reality distorting curse. Eldritch Ray, you can use an action to create a deadly beam that strikes a creature within 120 feet. Eldritch Scythe, once per turn, when you would make a melee weapon attack as part of the attack action, you can instead make a melee spell attack, lashing out with an ephemeral and unearthly blade. And the Eldritch Whip, you can use an action to thrash a creature with a scintillating tendril of arcane force, make a melee spell weapon attack against a creature within 15 feet, dealing 1d6 force damage on a hit, and then there's some modifiers to that. So those are some of the class features. And then we're going to go to the combat maneuvers. So allow me to do this. Wizard. Boop, 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 boop. Where's the spell list? Um, armors and shields, weapons. Let's get back into the chat because I've ignored you guys this entire time. Has this not improved? Not updated? I mean. All right. Okay. So a lot more options for weaponry and armor. So armor, weapons, and shields. We do have shield sundering. You can sacrifice. Where is it located? It doesn't matter. Okay. You can sacrifice your shield to to ignore a critical hit. So you may do that. Range weapons. There are a lot more options for weapons. Not when I say options, there are more traits to given to weapons, such as weapon properties like breaker, compounding, defensive, dual wielding, finesse, hand mounted weapons, heavy loading mounted weapons, parrying, parry immunity. Attacks with this for parry immunity. Attacks with this weapon ignore the parrying property and armor class bonuses from shields because they kind of wrap around them. Range weapons, reach, simple, thrown weapons, uh, trip weapons, two-handed, versatile weapons, and vicious weapons. Of course, some things on improvised weapons, ammunition styles such as explosive or flaming, and then some cultural weapons like boomerang, butterfly sword, chakram, katanas, the capiche, kusarigama, mangosh, nine-section whip, nunchaku, shuriken, spike gauntlets, rare weapons as well, such as the double-ended weapons, mercurial maul, ring blades, uh, geared slingshots, ratcheting crossbows, firearms as well as an option, shields. There are light. There's a light, medium, heavy, and tower shields now, and of course, using improvised shields and sacrificing a shield. When you take a critical hit, you can use your reaction to block it and sacrifice your shield. So we have that. Lots more armor and options and materials to build with those armor. Armor degradation is part of the game, so you do have the ability to repair armor and add modifications to it. For example, we have materials such as adamantine, bone, bronze, and cloth. Armor made out of iron, leather, mithril, silver, steel, stone, and wood. So you can modify them that way as well. Lot more gear. You'll have these breakout boxes talking about rations and supply, and using supply for your adventuring day, miscellaneous gear, and then lots of small items as well as adventuring packs. So for equipment packs, there's a lot more of them. For example, there's an assassin's, burglar, demolition pack, diplomats pack, Dungeoneers, Entertainers, Explorers pack, and the math on the cost of the items has been evened out. So an Assassin's pack is 175 gold pieces, whereas a Priest pack is like 19 gold pieces. So there is, there's a cost involved in that. So anyway, These are some of the major things involved with creating your character, getting equipment, buying equipment, um, paying for services. There, you can also pay for henchmen and retainers, and you could build your as you gain levels. You can start building yourself a kingdom or a temple or a thieves guild and things like that. So strongholds, having multiple strongholds, and examples of types of strongholds like castles or farms, guild houses, laboratories, a menagerie, a sacred grove. These are all types of air quote strongholds you can build. And then of course we have all of our spells and spell like features as we move on. So let's get into martial maneuvers. All right, multi-classing. There we go. Sorry, proficiencies. We know about combat. You guys know combat. Um, mm, 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 mm. Feats. Got to have some feats. All those rewritten, rebalanced out. Mm. There are some synergy feats. So there are some feats locked behind character level and or class, and it was a way for level up to add some like prestige classes into the game. Some of those prestige ones are actually have a physical transformation, so kind of cool there. Okay, of course, ability scores, how to use them, uh, proficiency checks, how to use group checks, and talks about examples of difficulties, critical successes, and failures. So, critical successes and failures are across the board, both for skills, exploration, social, and combat, and gives some examples of like some of those critical successes and failures. And some of those critical successes and failures could grant you some expertise dice. Uh, Maybe, possibly. Of course, adventuring, social interactions, those kind of things. And then we have to get to our martial prestige ratings, optional rules for calling in favors, PCs having relationships with people in various locations, and combat. And we have to get to um, mm, 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 that we have a dash action and there's a sprint action. When you take the sprint action, you focus all your effort on moving as fast as possible. You may not take any other actions, bonus actions, or reactions other than your move speed for the turn. If you are unencumbered, your speed is quadrupled. If you are encumbered or wearing heavy armor, your speed is tripled for one turn. And you may sprint for a number of turns equal to your Constitution modifier. Each turn sprint after that, make a Constitution athletics check, DC 10 plus 1 per previous check made in the last minute, or you suffer a level of fatigue. So we're sprinting. Sprinting is pretty cool. And come on. Death dying. Massive damage. There is a massive damage um possibility, so even very high level characters can be killed outright. Massive damage can injure or kill you instantly. If you are reduced to 0 hit points after taking an amount of damage equal to or greater than 20 plus triple your character level, you make or hit dice for creatures, you make a DC 15 Constitution saving throw. On a failure, you die instantly, while on a successful result, you live but suffer 1 level of fatigue and 1 level of strife. So again, it is if you are reduced to 0 hit points after taking an amount of damage equal to or greater than 20 plus triple your character level. So if you're 5th level, it's 20 plus 15, which means if you get hit with 35 points of damage and it drops you to 0, you got to make a save, 15 DC 15 Constitution save, or you're dead outright. Um, Dropping to 0 hit points, you drop to 0 hit points, you're unconscious. Falling unconscious during an encounter is traumatic and inflicts a level of fatigue. So it's much more brutal. Um, Oops. Here's one of my favorite parts. Sorry. I know I'm going back and forth. Shit. There we go. World bonuses. Let me get back into the chat. You guys have anything to say? Jude says, Alley says, "Yeah, oh yeah, Eldritch Blast is way overused." I hear people calling things nerfed. What happened was it became balanced. I say we like I designed it. I didn't do it, but I was part of the team, so I have to say we. But yeah, that kind of stuff. Smite became balanced. Wild Shape became balanced. That kind of stuff. Drew says, "I have not much to add today. D&D 5e was not for me, and even though this looks like a lot of work went into it, it's also not the game for me. I absolutely understand. It's not for everybody. um, considering that more has been added to it and tweaked so that one thing doesn't become a better option than another thing. So if you're not a fifth edition player in the first place, this is definitely not going to be for you. So Tuesdays, maybe not for you. Um, World bonuses, penalties, and cover. So other than difficult terrain and cover, we've added in something called world actions. So environments are also often dynamic spaces with moving parts other than their inhabitants. Within turn-based action, the world gets its own turn to enact these moving parts in the form of world actions. World actions have a variety of specific effects depending on the environment. A bolt of lightning might strike near a single participant, the fumes from a swamp, etc., etc. After the environment uses a world action with a recharge, the narrator rolls a die 6 on a result equal to or greater than the listed number. The environment regains its world action. Otherwise, at the start of each round, the narrator repeats the roll until the environment regains that specific world action. And then we have example world actions. So these things happen um, in on a turn. So if a particular bonus, penalty, or action doesn't make sense for where the participants are located, the narrator can reskin a different environment's effects or forego using them altogether for a turn-based action encounter. That said, an unexpected effect can prompt creativity, challenge, and intrigue in a game. I'm surprised they kept that line in there. So we have cavernous, fiery, forested, frigid, furnished, hazy, stormy, swampy, world actions, rocky, etc. So, for example, under frigid, we have frostbitten surface, touching an unattended object or a surface for the first time on a participant's turn causes them to take 1d6 cold damage. This effect is nullified if they have resistance to cold damage or the participant's skin isn't exposed to the surface. And then there's Icy Patch. When a participant starts moving in a single direction through this area hazard, movement in another direction is considered difficult terrain until the start of their next turn. And then there's Snow. The area is lightly obscured. And then for the world action, Cold Chill on a recharge of 4 to 6. All participants must make a DC 15 Constitution saving throw or take 2d6 cold damage. This damage is reduced to 1d6 if they are wearing cold weather gear. And so that's just like an example. Like maybe there's a stormy place with heavy precipitation and loud winds. Maybe there's an action such as a forceful gale or lightning strike that happens in a region. For example, under forceful gale, a single participant makes a DC 12 strength saving throw, or they are pushed 15 feet in one direction. This movement does not provoke opportunity attacks. This could change the battlefield because you might be, let's say, the berserker is facing off against two ogres. One of those ogres could get forced away, or even the PC could get blown in one particular direction. And there's other things like forested areas with like brush, fallen trees, fallen leaves, distressed animal cacophony, uh, that kind of stuff. So I like that. And let's get into, lastly, we'll go into combat maneuvers. Combat maneuvers, there are ones that every player character has, and then there are combat maneuvers that are specified under their particular school. So, an people who have access to combat maneuvers have an exertion pool, which is twice your proficiency. So, fifth edition proficiency is +2 to +6. You double that. That's how many points you have in your exertion. Uh, Characters that have martial combat maneuvers are like, they're not half level. These are like non-magical capabilities that are like being a caster, but being like a 0.25 caster, if that makes sense, to enhance and give martial characters, warrior style characters, something else to do. So something every character can do without expending any resources are disarm, grab on, grapple, knock down, overrun, shove. Those are things everybody can do. And then there's a list of all the combat maneuvers in alphabetical order and tells you kind of what they do. and then there's details, and this is a lot of them. It's almost like a spell list for martial characters, and then they are then characterized characterized. Bleh, wow, they are put in categories for their school. So there's adamant mountain, which deals with hardiness, might, and power, and it moves on from there. Wow, boy, I farted in my mouth. Biting zephyr. Excuse me. There's mirror's glint. I'll stop at any one of these if anybody wants me to. There's one called mist and shade maneuvers. They s- if you think they sound like what you think they are, then that's exactly what they are. Rapid current maneuvers for fast strikes, mobility, and swiftness. There is razor's edge maneuvers for awareness, concentration, and discipline. If you want to build a fighter that is like a charisma fighter, a dex fighter, a an intelligence fighter, this is a way to do it. So, like, if you want to make a wisdom focused fighter, you might want Razor's Edge because it deals with awareness, concentration, and discipline. Whereas if you want to make more of a dex fighter, you might want rapid current maneuvers for fast strikes, mobility, and swiftness, that kind of thing. And yes, there are strength, that kind of thing. And yes, adepts, heralds, fighters, rangers have access to. The only class that has access to every one of them is the fighter. The others are limited. Sanguine Knot for legion, teamwork, and trust. It's kind of like being a Spartan, Roman legionnaire kind of thing. Spirited Steed maneuvers for mounted soldiering and warfare. If you want to play like a cavalier style character. Tempered Iron maneuvers for confidence, conviction, and zealotry. Yeah, it falls more towards like the clerical herald. And Tooth and Claw maneuvers, animalistic movement and natural, especially for those who have transformative abilities, and unending wheel maneuvers for mastery, patience, and training. And under each of them, there are particular skills and such. Those are martial maneuvers. I Let's stop right here to describe some of these martial maneuvers. So, unending wheel. There are many facets to combat. How one places their feet, an adroit grip upon a weapon's hilt, the angle of a shield's arm, but achieving exceptional skill over specific weaponry can be an efficient means to victory. By patiently focusing your martial studies, you unlock secrets and blah blah blah. So we have dangerous signature, which only costs 1 point, and then it tells you like, is it a first degree maneuver, second degree, up the maximum is fifth degree level, and it tells you how many points, and it tells you whether it's an action, a reaction. Some of these are stances. Stances are once you enter into a stance, you can remain into that stance, uh, kind of like a perpetual magic ability with concentration, kind of. Um, what are some other victory pose, instant strike, wounding strike, preternatural strikes, unsettling injury, etc. So if wind strike, fourth degree unending wheel action costs 3 points of exertion. You use a melee weapon attack to strike a foe from a distance. Choose a weapon when you learn this combat maneuver. You can use the chosen weapon to strike a distant target with air pressure, giving your attack a normal range of 20 feet and long range of 60. This functions as if your weapon had the thrown property, except you don't actually throw it. You have advantage on attack rolls made using this maneuver. If both attack rolls hit, you deal an additional weapon damage die. After using this maneuver to hit a creature, it can use an action to make a perception check against your maneuver DC. On a success for the next minute, any uses of wind strike do not grant advantage on attack rolls made against the creature. So that's just an example. So let's get back into the chat. Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. Here we go. Mike says the one feature 1D&D gets right is turning Eldritch Blast into a class feature, not a spell. They should have always done this, given WotC wants Warlocks to spam it. 1D, are you sure you meant to say 1D&D? Well, 1D&D may actually change it. So, which belongs to WotC. Level Up 5th edition has changed it, and I'm almost guaranteeing that the Black Flag thing is probably going to change it as well. Mm, 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 mm. You go. John Wright agrees with Druden. Like, same here. Not really interested in this kind of thing, which I get. Alley says ice patches take a charge and spin off into the steep ditch off the trail and roll into a snowball and slam into a tree. One thing after another. Ouch. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And the point of having world actions, which is, I'm so glad I was myself and three other people were brought in to do this, was that, if you let's be honest. What's one of the most boring encounters? It's bandits on the road, right? Goblins attack the PCs, but you start adding in like swamps and Arctic features and things like that, and you kind of change the battlefield a little bit. It would be kind of cool. Um, Infinite Role Places back in like 3.x Eldritch Blast was a class feature. In fact, it was. Oh shit! There we go. Okay. In fact, it was one with many more options than it has in 5e. Oh yeah. And listen, the designers of fifth edition wanted to make it simpler, so I get that. But sometimes when you design something, you have unintended consequences. Now's the opportunity for them to correct those consequences. But people have already done it, so that's why this. Um, Allowing you to better customize the type of warlock you want it to be. Also, warlocks back then was way less magic in the form of casting spells. Yep. Mike says, I think Paizo got it right with Witch. It's more than a cherry red button that spams Eldritch Blast. Yep. Yep. Don't dispute. Okay, so this is just part of the player's guide, right? This is just the adventurer's guide. Let me allow me to show you. We need. Okay, what's going on here? We want Monstrous Menagerie. Let's go to Monstrous Menagerie. Hi. Sorry. Let's go here. We want to share that out. Very quickly. Mm-mm. Get back and open up the thing. I wish. There we go. Real quick. That was just what I went through was just the adventurer's guide. That's just basically 99% player character focused. So here, this is the monster book, and for those who don't know, and yes, this Wayne knew this, told this to me, Wayne B and others, but I listened to and watched Sly Flourish as well. All the monster math has been rewritten. So, along with player characters having lots of options in Level Up 5th edition and lots of things, all the math for all the monsters was rewritten. But that's not where it stopped. So, I'm going to I'm going to try to turn to a two-page angels, a little bit too much. I want to turn to something a little bit more. Uh, Let me get to a two-pager. Okay, we'll stop right here with the Bahir, which is I think a great monster that isn't really focused on. So something that is in the Monstrous Menagerie, which Sly Flourish, his channel, he's been bullish about this. So not only do you get a monster stat block, okay, of course you get your name and a big blurb of information. All right, not too bad. But along with that, for every single monster in the Monstrous Menagerie, you get legends and lore. These are things that player characters can discover about the monster before they encounter the monster. And this is very old school. So OSR really wanted players because it was so dangerous to get in fights with these things. You needed to find out what the hell's ahead of you. So we have like increasing DC levels as to what you learn. So with Arcana, history checks, some of these have religion checks and so on, nature checks and survival checks, where you may learn what what is to come ahead through certain types of details. But what are those details? Well, We have listed under Behir, we also have some encounters. So there's some listed CR level encounters where you might have a number of Behir together, or maybe some BFF creatures located with each other, like goblins with hobgoblins or something like that. And then there are signs that you can include. You can randomly roll a d6. Some of these are d6 tables or d8, as to, for example, if you roll a 2, a wall scorched by lightning. Now, some of the signs are actually duplicates of other monsters, like maybe a blue dragon also has walls scorched by lightning. So they may or may not know what's going on, as well as behaviors. So if you have a monster and you're not sure exactly what kind of like tactics or behaviors, or maybe you catch a monster in the middle of doing something, for example, maybe it's dormant after eating a large meal and its stomach is real huge, or it's lying in wait in dark holes in a ceiling or a wall, or maybe it's slithering stealthily over and under ruins such as fallen statues of storm giants, or maybe it's hiding, questioning trespassers about whether they are friends or foes, things like that, right? Like, and every single creature has been given this legends and lore, signs, behavior, intelligent creatures that can speak. You've given some example names on the fly, so you can use those. So the Monstrous Menagerie, every monster has this. Um, it gives you signs. It tells you what is basically what the hell's up with them. Um, all their statistics and any creatures that have spells, wizards, liches, demons, blah 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 blah. All their spell abilities are listed underneath the creature. So it has its actions, it has its reactions, um, that kind of thing, and they're all listed there along with some of its behavior and or combat tactics, um, that kind of stuff. So yep, so you have all these behaviors, and at the end, like here's a chimera. Um, in combat, it tells you kind of like what it would do in combat on this part, and then there many creatures have variants, like regional chimeras. For example, regional chimeras may have fairy chimera, fiendish chimera, sea chimeras, sewer chimera, and tundra chimera. Like under tundra chimera, it says polar bear bite, elk headbutt, and white dragon breath weapon. This chimera is immune to cold damage, and its breath weapon deals cold damage. How easy is that to include? Look at that. Look at that. Two lines of work and everything. So yeah, Monstrous Menagerie, great. Again, all the math has been reworked so that they are a little bit more lethal. Um, there's some lore involved in them that you can modify. Uh, Lots of like creatures plus a little bit of extra creature. Like for example, there's vampires, and then there's a vampire master, and then there's like vampire soldier, vampire wizard, all that kind of stuff, all the demons. So let's end with this. Let's end right here. Get back to the chat. Um, mm, 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 mm. All right. So let me turn this off, talk to you guys, and then get out of here. Oops. Stop sharing. There we go. Okay. Long story short, of course, we went on a little bit extra length here, but long story short, each Tuesday, we are going to delve into some aspect of Level Up 5th Edition, um, page through the Adventurer's Guide, just a simple overview. Um, showed you little bits and Okay. Showed you little bits and pieces of the Monstrous Menagerie. We'll get into that a little bit. My favorite's going to be delving into Trials and Treasures, about how the third pillar is part of the game, such as journey rolls that are not tied to your class levels, some of the journey features that class abilities can give you, um, being able to layer on lots of exploration challenges from burning forests and rope bridges and avalanches and all that kind of stuff, and including that, making that exploration be its own reward. For example, you can be rewarded for traveling and gaining certain bits of knowledge or even magic items and little bits and baubles. Maybe you find people on the road that kind of help you or travel with you, making alliances and things, as well as the fact that they are tier leveled. So characters tier 3, tier 4 in Dungeons and Dragons, basically 10th level and above, There are things in there. One of my favorite. Oh my god! Sorry. I got to turn to it because I'm so happy they kept it in here. Um, so happy. Oh, I didn't bookmark it. Why would I did? Why would I not have bookmarked it? Mm-mm-mm-mm. There we go. Let's see if I can actually find it because I'm sure my greasy fingers have had to hit it oftentimes. But essentially, it's a it's one of these exploration things where it was traveling through a hellscape, and I'm so glad it was kept in here. There it is, Hallowed Ground, Hail. How did I lose it? Um, Boy, I feel ridiculous, but whatever. Maybe I don't know where it's at. Oh well. We'll find it later. There it is. I did find it. Divine War. Damn. So this where are my fingers at? This side has all of the features, and then a full column on this side about tier 4 characters going through a divine war, and I absolutely love it. I'm so happy it exists in here. Each of these um, environmental challenges has its own experience point level, its DCs, ways to navigate, some suggested ways to navigate through it, suggestions on when players come up with creative ways to avoid or survive the onslaughts and such. And it's really great stuff. So this is reserved for Tuesdays. Tuesdays on this channel has always been something left for everyone else. This one, since a lot of you guys are like, well, this isn't really for me. Tomorrow, I think, hopefully will be. So tomorrow we're going to get into World Building Wednesday, and we are going to collectively world build. We're going to get into something called the GTFO, and not what you think, but hopefully it is kind of what you think, where we are going to basically take things from Dungeons and Dragons, classic fantasy, and take it and twist it and take it too far. So yeah, guys. By the way, thank you so much. I understand that maybe a lot of you are like, well, I don't really have much to add. No problems. If you have questions or if you're someone who's into Level Up 5th edition, please be aware. Come back on Tuesdays, or you can, I don't care when you ask, but Tuesdays where we're going to deal with Level Up 5th edition, Advanced 5th edition. Uh, Please go over to N World, go to the links. If you have any interest in it, check it out on Drive Through RPG. Go directly to the source, go to N World itself, and look that up. So, guys, thank you very much for letting me just basically page through, talk about things. There's so many little nuggets of I can't explain it. It's not one thing. It's just being rewritten up. If you're someone who does not want to be in a 5th edition hard mode, um, this might not be the game for you. But if you want something that has been rewritten, leveled out, uh, taken all the spam worthy things out of it, um, nerfed or rather rebalanced options so that no one specific option is better than another option, then this is the game for you. So, guys, thank you very much. It's an option. I absolutely, despite being on the writing team on this, I'm absolutely part of following the Black Flag developments. I'm going to follow that. I'm probably going to support it even if I never play the game. I'm also part of the Cool Name Goes Here Kickstarter about, again, designing a game to give away to the community. It won't necessarily be 5th edition compatible, but it will be something that people who've played 5th edition would be able to easily pick up. It'll be infinitely customizable, so hopefully that will be there as well. I'm very lucky and blessed to be part of teams like this and to help be considered to be a contributor, a consultant, and a writer. So I'm just happy to be part of these endeavors. If you've been here this long, please like, share, subscribe. Please tune back in. If you have something to say, do me a favor and say it. If you disagree with me, I absolutely, positively want to hear why it is. Don't give a thumbs down. I'm sorry, give a thumbs down, but don't just do that. Voice what you have to say. I'm a person that likes to listen to people. I love the conversation. Guys, have a great one. I know it's going long. I will see thee later. Peace.